Hello everyone. I've been contemplating about writing this for a long time. The truth is, I don't know if this is real or if it's all in my head. Whatever this is though has changed me in so many ways, and I now know I am in danger. We all are. But let's start from the beginning. The first time it happened, I was praying. I had recently lost my grandmother and I was feeling lost. I decided that I would turn to God to find peace and some answers and come to terms with her death. The chapel I went to was the one that my grandmother used to take me. It was small and always very quiet. Not many people visited. I decided to go there to feel closer to her. As I walked in, I could see no one, which made me feel better. I really didn't want to lose it in front of other people. I sat down to enjoy the silence and started praying. Imagine my surprise when in the middle of my prayer, I heard this little voice whispering, "I hear you." I jumped up and looked around. I was clearly alone, and I could not locate the source of the voice. I decided that it was a figment of my imagination and continued to pray. 5 minutes later, though, the voice came stronger. "You shouldn't be doing that." It was right next to my ear, so close it made the hairs on my neck stand up and send shivers down my spine. As I turned around, I came face to face with a girl. She couldn't have been older than me, maybe 16 or 17 years old. She was wearing this red dress and she was barefoot. Her hair was the darkest black I've ever seen, and her eyes the same. I started screaming, but at the same time I was mesmerized by her beauty. "Shh," she said, putting her hand on my mouth. "Do you want Father to hear us?" Her touch was soothing and not threatening in any way. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to fight back tears. "I am the devil," she said. "The first unwanted." I started trembling, fearing this was the end of me. She moved closer, and as if reading my mind, she said, "Don't worry, my child. I won't hurt you. I'm not the one you should be afraid of. I have come to warn you as I have done with so many others." A sudden noise, like whistling, made her stop talking, and I could see fear in her eyes. I tried to locate the source of the sound, and by the time I turned around to face her, she was gone. Only her scent lingered, this lovely lavender scent. I stayed there, not moving, trying to listen for what felt like hours. I was sure I was going crazy and convinced myself this was all due to grief and lack of sleep. But as I closed the door behind me to head to my car, I heard her whisper again, "Be careful." It had been a week since the incident and I had almost forgotten about it. I could hear the occasional whisper and catch a glimpse of something red in the corner of my eye. Never something specific. As fate would have it, I had to go and pick up my mother from the bus station, and the only way there, yes, you guessed it, was past the road with the chapel. The drive was uneventful until I got to the crossing in front of the chapel. I was getting nervous, remembering what had happened, so I turned the radio on louder and tried to find a relaxing song. And that's when it came. The smell. The freaking lavender smell. I looked up from the radio, and there she was. She was standing in front of the car. She looked exactly as she had been before, but different at the same time. Older, tired. I screamed and got out of the car. I started running in the field behind me. I was losing it. The tears came and I succumbed to my fate. I turned around to face her as I could feel she had been following me. "What do you want from me?" I screamed at her. She looked at me with that deep sadness in her eyes and came closer. "I want you to hear me out, child. I want to protect you. I am running out of time and you have to help me." I was lost for words, but somehow mastered the courage to reply, "Me? Help you? Aren't you supposed to be all powerful and evil? Aren't you the devil?" She came next to me and this time smiled. "My lovely child, yes, I was powerful once, but evil, never. As for the name, I kind of hate it. You can call me Lilith." Somewhere in the distance, whistling was heard. I tried to speak, but she cut me off. "Child, you have to understand that what you know is all wrong. The world is in danger. You have been taught so many lies. You have been deceived. I am not the one you should be afraid of. I am not the one that is going to hurt you. I was God once." Hearing that, I started laughing. I laughed and laughed because I was sure I was crazy. This could not be happening. This thing in front of me, Lilith, was claiming to be God. She grabbed my hand and my laugh was cut short. "Child, you have to understand," she said. "I don't have much time. Can't you see I'm different? I'm getting older, dying even. I found a way to make it happen, and if I am gone, there is no one to save you. See through the lies. Believe me." Whatever made me say the next words changed my life forever. "Okay, let's say I start to believe you. How can I help? What is happening?" The wind picked up suddenly, and I saw her shivering. "Not here," she said. "I will explain tonight, in the chapel. Tell no one where you're going. Don't even think about it in your mind. He is everywhere." And with that, she disappeared. I was left alone once again, thinking that I was insane, imagining things. The red mark on my hand from where she had held me, though, was there to prove me wrong. I suddenly remembered about my mother and checked the time. I was surprised to see that no time had passed, and somehow I was standing right next to my car. I decided to do what I was told and not to dwell on it in my head. I don't know who he was, but I was suddenly afraid. The rest of the drive was uneventful, and I have to admit that seeing my mother made me feel better. Upon returning home, we sat down and had dinner together, happily chatting away and reminiscing about the last time she came to visit. Suddenly, she stood up and proceeded to say she had a gift for me. She ran out to the car and brought in this little packet and gave it to me. "I hope you like it, my dear. It's a new perfume. Try it," she said. I thanked her and proceeded to open it. I took the cap off to smell it and I froze. It was lavender. I tried my best to hide my horror from my mother and casually asked her why she chose to buy me this specific one. In retrospect, I wish I never asked. because her answer chilled me to the core. She explained that she was in the shop struggling to buy me a present when a girl approached her. A girl roughly my age, with a lovely red dress. Her hair was the darkest black, and so were her eyes. My mother said she was instantly drawn to the girl, and they started chatting. The girl was really interested to hear that my mother had a daughter, and asked all sorts of questions about me. She said the girl suggested the perfume because it was her favorite. My mother said the girl seemed sure that I would love it, as lavender has such a soothing and familiar scent. I wish I could tell her how wrong she was. With this discovery in my mind, I decided I couldn't hear anymore, so I found an excuse to cut the conversation short and put a film on. A couple of hours later, I said goodnight to my mother and headed up to my room. The time was almost midnight. I made sure my mother had went to bed, waited a bit until she fell asleep, and got ready to make my way to the chapel. I was terrified, but determined to find out what was going on. Okay, Lilith, you have my attention. As I left my house to drive to the chapel for my meeting with Lilith, I was sure someone was following me. I choked it up to my nerves and drove on. I barely realized how I got there, since my mind was preoccupied with wondering what she was going to tell me. I parked the car down a small alley so I wouldn't be visible, took a deep breath and went in. Upon entering, all my nerves and agitation disappeared. The lavender scent was there, and all the candles were lit, giving the inside of the chapel a soft, warm glow that made me smile. I scanned the room with my eyes until I found her, and that's when my smile disappeared. She was hiding in the corner, visibly shaken, and I could see a slash on her right cheek. What made more impression on me, though, was that once again she looked older and a lot more tired. I approached her with caution and whispered her name. She suddenly looked up, and I noticed her eyes light up when seeing me.
Oh, I'm so glad it's you. I was scared you found me again. Eve, come closer. I need to tell you everything before it's too late.
The way she said my name made me shiver. Familiarity struck me and I was left numb. I felt I had seen this before. For the first time since first meeting her, I felt I really knew her. She caught up with my change of demeanor and she came closer.
So you start to remember? I was hoping we would never have this conversation again. I was hoping that I had managed to keep you safe.
I held her hand and tried to concentrate, but I couldn't.
Please tell me what is happening, Lilith. Yes, this all seems familiar, but I can't piece anything together.
She smiled softly. That warm, knowing smile, and she started her story.
Eve, first of all, you have to understand why it is vital you stay safe. It all started thousands of years ago. My father created me and my brothers, his angels. We were powerful beings and gladly helped Father to create the rest of the world. After we had finished, Father was content, but I felt empty. I felt that this beauty, this creation went underestimated. I felt we needed to create more, so I did. I created you, Eve, and alongside you, Adam, I knew Father would never approve, as he wanted to be the sole creator of everything in the universe. You see, Father was loving, but within limits. You could never defy him. You had to obey his rules. I kept you and Adam safe in the Garden of Eden, and you were so happy. Believe me, Eve, you were truly happy. But one day, the inevitable happened. You called me your God, a word so powerful on its own that stirred things, changed the balance, and he knew. I begged him to spare you. I begged him to take it out on me, to leave you, my children, alone. And he promised me he would, Eve. If I gave up my heavenly rights and walked out of heaven once and for all, he promised he would allow you to keep living. I had no choice and left. But Father was cruel. Yes, he kept you alive, but tainted your existence. He made you miserable. He made you believe he created you and that he owns you. He made you hate me and praise him. Eve, you have to understand, you never deserved this. Humanity never did. You did nothing wrong. The books and the teachings, everything is a lie. You're innocent, Eve.
At this point, I was crying my eyes out. My memory was still hazy, but I knew this was true.
But how did I get here?
I managed to ask.
How can I be alive? Ah, yes. You always ask me this. But you have to understand that Father didn't count on one of his favorites loving me more than him. Michael let me know of Father's plan to deceive you with the apple. So, I managed to put some of my grace in it. Once you took a bite, you became immortal, Eve. When your body dies, you simply move on to a new one. And it's the same for Adam. I have managed to keep you safe by erasing your memory from time to time. But now he knows. Michael is long gone, and this is my last chance. You have to find Adam. You have to find him and help him remember. And then you have to save the world.
I was lost for words. I looked at her and tried to understand what was happening, when suddenly the all-too-known whistling came. Lilith screamed in agony, and the candles went out. An icing feeling came over me, and I saw a shadow move closer. This was surreal. It was pitch black in the chapel, but still this shadow was clearly visible. It was like it was sucking all of the air out of the room. I almost fainted when I heard his voice.
Finally I found you, child.
I screamed in terror. The candles came back on and I saw him. He was standing behind Lilith and he looked nothing like I had imagined. He was holding her close, hugging her, but you could see she was hurting.
Who are you? What do you want from me?
I asked. He laughed, this roaring laugh that reached to the bottom of my soul.
I wasn't talking to you.
He said.
I was talking to my child. The one that betrayed me. Lilith, why would you do this to your own father? Haven't we been through enough? Don't you miss heaven?
Lilith looked at him with disgust.
You are not my father. You kill or cast away anything that doesn't fit your rules. What have you done to Michael?
Oh yes, Michael. The other disobedient child. Let's just say Michael has been reprogrammed. He knows where he belongs now,
he said, while grabbing her tighter. I couldn't take anymore and I lunged at him. He stopped me with his eyes. The pain was excruciating and I howled. He laughed and laughed and I could hear his laugh in my head.
Please stop hurt her, Father. Please stop it.
Lilith screamed and managed to escape his grasp. She put her hand on my forehead and immediately the pain went away.
Oh, Lilith, aren't you tired of wasting your grace? She is clearly not the savior you think she is. She will die in vain.
And with that last comment, he pulled her close once again, and the flames engulfed her. She fell backwards with empty eyes, looking at the ceiling.
What have you done to her, you monster?
I cried, but he was long gone. The lavender scent had disappeared, and all I was left with was darkness and this cold whisper.
Don't they say God works in mysterious